Right then, guys. So, welcome to our mini-series on getting into education. Essentially, what we're going to do is go out there and meet some of the educators that we've met in the sector. Some of these people have worked in education for 5 years, some of them have worked for 20 years. And what we want to do is find out why they're in education, why they've stayed in education, how they got into education, and what they think we could do better as education establishments, how we can improve. You're here today with myself, Guy Walker, CEO at Dovetail Slate.
My name is Sophie Brown. I am Director of Growth and Partnerships.
I'm Chris Nelson, a construction educator from the northwest of England.
Brilliant. Okay, so first question.
Let's kick it off. So what first inspired you to consider a career in education, Chris?
I think, Sophie, it might be something to do with the British weather. No, that's the honest answer. The other answer is, in the construction industry, as you know, you can make a good living. There's lots of money to be made, but you are generally helping yourself. There's not a lot of reward in day to day. You turn up, you go to work, you go home. And I quickly realised that actually I wanted to do something else. Work with people a little bit more directly. I'm a people person, and I wanted to pass on my skills to other people. And I've embarked on a career in education, passing on them skills to our next generation.
Can I ask you what made you want to pass the skills on?
A big impact was when you're a young person, because I was still quite young when I went into education. I remembered my own college tutors and how supportive they were and how you need that direction and need to be helped. And if you haven't got someone who's willing to do that and give them your time, it can become a struggle for young people. And I've always got a helping nature, and I don't like to see. So I always seem to team up with apprentices on site, Guy. When I was working on site, I took an interest in helping them because I could remember what it was like. So I always made a beeline to show them how to do things, and then I just thought, yeah, this is where I can see myself being.
Right, okay.
Did you have that magic moment at any point? Yes, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I think I did actually. I'll tell you a little bit of a story about how I ended up in education. I was actually working at a specialist school doing some building work. Okay, and it was allowed me to look at, it was a school for behavioural children, for young boys, and I was thinking to myself, I could see myself doing it, working here, being involved in the staff team and stuff like that. So I ended up chatting to the director of the company, and he offered me some work. He says, "You'd be good at this." He says, "Do you want to come and do some part-time work for us in some of the care homes?" And you know, and then he said, "Listen, I'm looking for someone that I want to teach bricklaying to these young people. Would you be interested? Come and try it, see how you get on." So I went and tried it, got involved in some of the sportier kind of things on a part-time basis. And then that led me into embarking on a career in education. And then at that point, I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Because you weren't qualified at that moment, were you?
No.
So you got straight into it and stuck straight into a classroom?
Yeah.
So what point did you go and get qualified? Did that happen next? Or?
I took it upon myself to do it off my own back, actually, Guy. And the doors just start opening, and when you then offer training. So started out doing my petals, what it used to be, the AET. I got that done off my own back, sort of self-directed, made sure I was on that course. And then that allowed me an opportunity to sort of grow into a teaching position in the organisation that I was working for, which ultimately led me to FE further down the line.
And if not this, then what? Was education always the plan for you?
No. If you'd have been at school with me, you would at the last place I would have seen myself as being a form of a teacher and an educator, just because of the academia side of what it's like at mainstream high school and stuff like that. So, and I actually laugh, and I'm still in contact with my old tutors, and they find it rather amusing that I've ended up going down the same road as them. So I've actually got a working relationship with the same guys that taught me. And at the time, they couldn't have seen me being in education. I don't think I could have done either. So
wow.
It's funny how it works out. And interestingly, I spoke to my original tutor who taught me to be a bricklayer. And there's actually quite a few of us now across the country that he's worked with who've gone into education. And I think that says a lot about them as a person and the impact they've had. And that we still stay in contact today,
Yeah, because you were level 3 qualified, right? You're a level 3 in trade.
Yeah, MVQ
Yeah,
level 3.
So that academic piece of looking at like thinking education's just degrees, right?
Yeah.
Or English and maths. That's the biggest misconception I hear is like,
absolutely.
Did you know that you can teach the thing you're vocationally practiced in? They're like, no, teachers teach. I don't teach English. I'm not in a secondary school.
Yeah.
And when you actually say, well, look, this is further ed.
Yeah.
This is where you can be a subject matter expert. And you can take that passion you have for your trade, and you can convert that into opportunities for young people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the bit that I think you didn't get it.
No,
I definitely didn't understand it.
No,
and so we still have this overcoming barrier where we're like, well, yeah, we are doing something we love.
Absolutely. Just in terms of I've been a lecturer and done some. I mean, my probably the most I enjoy is the on-site assessment, which I always say to sort of friends and colleagues. It's like all the best bits of going on site, but without actually having to be on site all day,
saving the
damaging
knees.
your back and your knees. So I get that site environment, but I do it with the young people, and it's a nice role.
And you said you didn't necessarily see yourself in this profession many years ago. What have you found surprised you about being in teaching, good and the bad?
The bad. Start with the bad first. Very different to when I was at college. The educational landscape's changed substantially. We have full-time courses now. Education's extended to sort of 18. And I didn't realise the impact that the maths and English, which Guy spoke about, had on a practical course. So you've got to adapt, and you've got to realise that young people are a little bit younger than they used to be in terms of what was 16 is probably now 18 in terms of the education system. So it was adjusting to that. When I was at college, I was an apprentice. We was on block release. Full-time students it's all different. We're in a changing, and there's a lot more social responsibility around the role of education now. You have a social responsibility to your students and their lives and all the sort of entails and they bring to the college. There's so much more to it now than just coming in and learning a trade. There's a massive social, cultural sort of response to that.
Yeah, and behaviour.
Absolutely.
So we were at a conference the other day, British Association of Construction Heads, and basically one of the biggest issues was behaviours.
Yeah.
Because we've now made it mandatory. It's not optional.
Yeah.
So even if they did want to select it, which is the 1 or the 2 or the 3, typically they have to be sold on why they're there.
Yeah.
And so their behaviour until they really understand what they're there for, right? So they've met employers, they can see career prospects.
Yeah.
They've learned stuff they like learning.
Yeah.
Behaviour was the single biggest problem. How have you seen that change?
Obviously, because I started out in a behavioural school. When I moved into a college environment, I was very surprised at the actual behaviour. And I've watched it and I look at it and it's changed a lot in 9 years I've been in FE. Different, years ago, some of the students were a lot more challenging and engaging and obstructive, shall we say. There's a lot of emotional traits with students that need managing in a different approach. And I often think that if you've got the right people guiding them down the right path and how they speak to the students and how they engage with them, it can have a big bearing on the behaviours that you see day to day around the college. They've come from an education background that's similar to myself. School wasn't not for everybody, being in a classroom, learning about Shakespeare. And you've got to show them a different path of education in a practical mindset, in a fun, friendly and engaging. They need to understand who you are and what you're going to give them at the end of it.
Is that your bit of advice? To be fun and friendly? Is that the tip for the next generation of lecturers?
Yeah, you have to have boundaries as well. You have to be professional. You have to have a firm hand when needed. And then some of the best educators you will learn from. There's lots of good people in colleges. So if you are new to education, look at the experienced staff who are doing the right things. Learn from them. You have called it a toolbox in education, and you have lots of different tools, and it's knowing when to use them. Certain situations, not to antagonise certain situations. It can all affect behaviours, but and the structure and the environment is massive as well. If you get all them things right, people will do well, and it's a nice thing when you see them turn it around and do well.
Yeah, you mentioned 9 years there, so that's a long time. We're going to move into the why now. Why you stay, motivation and meaning behind that. So what keeps you in education today?
There's lots of job security for starters. You can work for a college where you've got a pension, and a structure and a place of work that's regular, familiar. You know, in the construction industry, you can be moving around the country, moving around the Northwest. So there's lots of job security. There's also a lot of rewards for it, you know, and they're not apparent day to day. And it's the little moments that all add up, I find, when you're working with, you know, young people. What they come in at, you see them come through the door at like 16. And even you in your back of your head, you're thinking, will we get there? And then when they do, that's when the moment drops that you go, yeah, this is why I do it. I've had a few of them moments lately, to be honest with you. Little touching moments that I'd never, and it was simple things, thank yous, you know, a phone call to thank you for doing your job. But you don't realise, naturally, you go above and beyond sometimes to get people to where they need to be. Having worked in apprenticeships, you know, there's lots of changes regarding endpoint assessment and the onus on the learner. They need lots of wraparound support to get to that, you know, end result. And actually to get a thank you at the end of it for all your help and all the extra things that you've put on so that they pass that, it's really nice. And it doesn't come in your pay packet. It's just a nice, touching thank you for you and the team. It's good.
Where did the most unexpected thank you come from?
What
was that one where you were like, no, that I shouldn't have been thanked for that but I got it.
Yeah, recently, you know, someone who didn't give a lot away, wasn't expecting a thank you really, very quiet, and then a phone call with a professional. It's all done now. Thank you very much. Can you pass on my regards to yourself, X, Y, and Z? Everything you've done for me over the last few weeks. I don't think I'd have got there if you hadn't have stepped in and done what you did for me. And they were, you know, at risk of potentially not completing and all the other things. Just giving them a little bit of structure, turning them around, getting them back on track where they need to be in the qualification, and ultimately getting a nice result. So for them, because it's not for me, it's for them. You know.
Hey, it sounds like it's for you. You sound like you love that as well. So it's you can get two things out of it, right? It doesn't need to be all about the learner. It can be about job satisfaction and enjoying it in that stable environment. That's what further education offers.
Absolutely, yeah. And it can be as simple as a text message on your work phone to thank you for all the hard work you've done when they've got a nice result at the end of it. So it's good.
Okay, so diving into the role itself, what gives you the most energy? Teaching part, mentoring, innovating, leading? Do you like leading people?
Do you know what? Yeah, I do. I like being challenged and given everyone works to timescales and challenges and innovating. So I've noticed over the last few years, if someone tasks me with doing something, I like to get on and do it. I like a project. I like the reward of bringing it all together, making things happen, and I thrive off that. So I suppose I am a little bit of an innovator as well, and leading as well. But at the same time, I just like, you know, that can be in small ways, or it could be quite a big project. So yeah, I think in education you've got everything there. You can be asked to lead in your role. So you've got, you know, a little project where you can be designed, could you get on with that and make that happen for us? And you've got your day-to-day stuff where you're doing it every day. So it's lots of different things really. But yeah, I think I like to be challenged, sometimes by senior management to do things that are a little bit different and outside the box. Yeah. Sometimes we've got a very structured way of doing things, and sometimes we need to try things and do different things.
And I see that in the day-to-day being one thing. But then when someone calls you and says, right, I've got a problem with a particular piece of software, say apprenticeship systems, or I've got this, and then you're the person they go to, that sense of pride that you get, that you can impact all of those people in that chain, right? And
yeah.
When I've had conversations with you, you've always said, give me that really difficult thing. Give me that thing that nobody else wants to do, maybe no one else can do, and then let me make that special.
Yeah.
And I've seen that for you for sure.
Yeah. And when you get that, that's job satisfaction. You know, absolutely. Wouldn't get that in the building trade. And it's the added skills that working in education brings. You know, I feel confident enough now I could branch off. I've got the digital skills, I've got the, you know, communication skills and the interpersonal to sort of I could always adapt a little bit if I didn't, you know, away from education, away from construction. And I think you only get that in something like education, because there is digital skills. You do need to do other things other than you teach your practical skills. And I think you've got to embrace that, bring that on board, and then look at what it gives you at the end of it.
you've given us some nuggets already, but the next part is some advice for the next generation, which is hugely important. What do you wish you'd known before stepping into your first classroom?
There are lots of different processes involved in working at college. You're not going to know them on day one. Take it all in. Digest the information. See where it all fits in. Enjoy what you're doing. And in 12 months' time, you'll be experienced. You'll know what all these processes and systems are, and you'll just flourish, and it'll become second nature. And you will have a good, rewarding career in education. It'd be easy. And my biggest advice to people is, I didn't used to do this to start with either. You get lots of holidays and benefits as working in education. And it's very easy to come from construction and go, I'll go back into industry at the weekend and I'm off for 3 weeks, right? I'll go back into industry. And what I'm starting to learn now as I get older, no, enjoy that time. Spend it with your family, go to the gym, go on holiday, switch off from work, because it can be easy to sort of dip into one and out on the other. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. But once you get established, just enjoy the added perks that working for an FE college can bring, because they are very good, and you've got to take your downtime, and switch off.
Because you're an assessor as well, so you've got that natural balance to be able to flex your diary a little bit to make sure that you can drop the kids off on the way to work. You can pop in and get a haircut at the right time and make sure that you make those hours up elsewhere. You can arrange your diaries for you at the places you need to be that suit you, your work-life balance, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We changed a lot after COVID, but actually as an assessor, we was always very flexible. We was always on the road, moving around, and and it's up to you how you manage that. And it works. That's always worked for me. There's times in an evening where I'll have to speak to employers to plan what I'm doing the next day. And you just take that time back and you build up that trust with your employers. And as long as you're engaging with your students and you're getting the results, that's the flexibility that the assessing roles can bring. I'm noticing in colleges a lot now, teaching staff are being given downtime at home to do their admin. I think it's a great thing. Just having a coffee, logging in, doing your marking in your own environment for one morning a week, seeing that more and more now. And I think that's a really good thing. I think it's really, really good. It wasn't like that when I started, and we're seeing more and more of that sort of trust and flexibility being given out to lecturing staff as well, which is good.
Yeah, fantastic. What is the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Think things through. Yeah?
Nice.
Think things through. Listen and sort of lean on people when you need to. If you're unsure of something, loads of experienced staff in these buildings, Pick the good ones, see how they do it, and put it into your own ways. And you will pick up lots of tools and tricks along the way that'll make life easier for you and your students. But think things through, take a step back. And, there's busier times in education, and then there's less busier times. And you've just got to, if your time management's good, and you'll understand how to sort of put processes in to make that work, you'll find that you always plan and always organise, and everything else just comes naturally, I think. You
said pick a role model there. What's the characteristic, just one, of someone that's a good role model for the next generation of educators?
Approachable communicator, someone who can get on with everyone.
That's just strange. I thought you would have said passionate. Someone who actually cares. But I guess actually, if they're passionate but they can't communicate like a normal person.
Yeah.
And then you can't talk to them because they're so passionate. They're on this sort of firebrand of...
Yeah, that's totally right. Sometimes you have got, you can have the most passionate gentleman in the world or lady, but they don't get that across to anyone. So, yeah, you're probably right. But yeah, I'm always looking for I think working in education, you need a smile every day. Smile costs nothing. Yeah. Smile can go a long way. Especially in a, stressful environment and all the other things that can happen throughout the academic year. Just smiling and keeping positive can make a massive difference. Yeah, don't look for problems where there isn't any.
Love that. And there's probably going to be a lot of people listening that are potentially on the cusp or considering a career in education. What would you say to those people that are considering becoming a teacher but feeling a little bit unsure?
I would just go for it. I wouldn't look back. I would go for it, and don't don't always think that your first teaching role, if things don't go exactly how you planned, try somewhere else, move around, keep your options open. Just go for it, make it your own, and you stick with it.
I think sticking with it's the really good bit there. Is like actually colleges have their own offering to an employee, and culture has its own different vibe and feeling. And also you might end up with the wrong manager, the wrong leader, the wrong person ahead of you. And so it's not always a bad thing to change jobs. But if you're getting the right support and actually you're just doubting yourself, don't go looking for another job straight away. Like give colleges time, give them feedback, tell them how you feel, and you'll find out if that's normal, right?
One thing I would say, sort of looking back over my sort of career, is in construction, we come from a very reactive mindset. We will we'll drop our tools and go to the next job if we don't like something. And that is the biggest thing you need to break in education, because you can't keep doing that too soon.
You end up with nowhere left.
You have to stick with it and make a more well thought out decision before you do move around and all the rest of it. Because construction are the hardest staff to retain for that reason, because they're so used to just moving on from site to site. They don't have a fixed place of work. And actually speaking to some of the construction colleagues that I've worked with for years and on and off, we actually get quite, when we work somewhere for a prolonged period of time, you get more emotionally attached to it than you actually think.
Yeah.
And it's only when you come to leave, you realise that. And I said, I've actually seen sort of colleagues, and probably myself to some degree, actually looking a little bit sad when they're moving on and emotional, and they're going, but you have worked 4 years or 5 years, 3 years is a long time in construction for a construction staff member to work there. So it's not something we've been familiar with in a very transient sort of working culture. So you will get attached to it. And if you like it, you'll feel it. It's something that shocks you, if you will. We change our mindset all of a sudden. We don't want to move around. We quite like that place of work every week with all our colleagues. You
got your own cup. Right,
absolutely.
Got your own cup. Your coffee's going to be there when you get in.
Well, people always nicking coffee.
Right, fine,
and I'm one of them.
Okay, so if you could pass one lesson on to a new educator, what would that be?
Be yourself. Absolutely, be yourself. Think quick, think on your feet, and enjoy it.
Just enjoy it, right? It's a new career. It's exciting. You're going to get really good at something. You've got to embrace it. And give it
you've got to go into it 100%. Yeah, and you might not get there straight away because you're testing the water. You're seeing how you like it. I get that, but ultimately, you're getting a lot out of it for you, not only for yourself but for your students. And it, every day is not going to be fantastically you're not going to be smiling every day. But there's more good days than bad days, and that's what I always say about education. There is far more good days than bad days, and that's not the case for every job. But it's a true, honest reflection.
And the weather doesn't ruin your day anymore.
I don't miss that.
I don't miss that. It's not great driving in the rain. So
no.
Thanks so much for that, Chris. That's really informative on your journey and how long you've been in it. Can I just ask you a couple more questions?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, no problem.
So how long have you been in education?
So I started doing a little bit of part-time teaching around 2013-ish.
Okay, cool.
So quite a while.
12 years.
Stayed in industry for quite a while as well. Sort of tried it, like we discussed before, and quickly realised, this is where I want to be, and I remember the conversations with some of the colleagues. What you do? You're going into that for? Why aren't you staying on site? And it was like, no, I'm going to go for it, me.
I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go for this. And it was I seen it as an opportunity to grow as who I am.
Yep.
As a person and a career.
And I see that difference over because I've worked with you for 11 years, right? So I've seen that difference in you over that time as well. Yeah. So I've probably worked with you.
Yeah, good. God, decade or so.
as long as you've been in education, I've been here, right?
Yeah, we've known each other for whatever reason,
Fantastic, yeah. So you were in the behavioural school. How did you get that job at a college? Did you go on the website or did you apply on a job board or?
I applied on the website.
Literally just found the college website.
I'd realised that the next stage for me as a teacher was to leave, the private sector with behaviourals and go into an FE role. Kept an eye out at my local college. Job came up, went for the interview, went for it, and
got the job.
The rest
clearly.
is history. Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. What about your CV when you first did that? Who did you go to? Did you get some advice on writing that CV out?
Well, although I wasn't a massive fan of academia at school, I was always I could always produce a written piece of that, which is what you need to get by. And so my CV was very building orientated. However, there's plenty of people out there who can help you get across your skill set on a CV to get you in front of the right people. That's where some of the agencies come in terms of people coming off the tools. You don't realise how many skills you pick up in industry that probably aren't on your CV.
Yep.
And it's getting them across that puts you in the best position to get that job when you go for a college job. Because there's so many trans skills that you can pick up as a builder and in construction that you might not have on pen and paper, but you might just need a guidance with that. And that's where some of the recruitment agencies can, like yourselves, can come in, have a look at your CV and make it look right.
Yeah. And this is a bit of an outlier question, but what advice would you give to a manager who's looking after new educators?
The manager needs to lead. They need to see so that manager needs to operate how they want their staff to work.
Yep.
And they'll buy into it. Yeah. If they're following the right ways, and give them time. People need a little bit of time to adjust.
Definitely, with what we're saying, the differences between the industries, right? We want to restore or lead.
It's new.
Yeah,
it's absolutely new. They're coming from a background that's almost alien to some elements of education. The admin side of it, the chasing maths and English and stuff like that. Like, what am I doing? And they will say, what am I doing this for? What's this got to do with bricklaying or joinery?
Well, how do you price a job? How do you quote a job? Right?
Exactly.
You need it all.
Exactly.
You don't want to price a job wrong. That'll cost you.
Exactly.
That'll cost you. And you don't want to send a quote that's got spelling mistakes. The client won't buy you. So it does make sense.
And what we're noticing now in certainly apprenticeships, we are getting fantastic people with good with their hands. We ask them to price a job up and use a little bit of sort of embed the maths and English and stuff. They can understand why they're doing it, rather than just go and sit in a maths lesson.
Yep.
So you've got to make it relatable to industry. And, I remember a conversation last week with a couple of students and they were asked to do a quotation, price up some work, and it threw them. Yeah. And I think that's where you look at the education system in the 5 years at school. Does it prepare them for working life? Absolutely not. So we've got to pick up 5 years of, sitting in a classroom where they're not really engaging and get them where they need to be. So make it related to earning money, contributing to society. Then they can buy into it.
I totally agree with you. And that, I think, from us, Chris, is everything. Thank you so much for coming on down. Thanks for coming all the way to the studio over here in York. And thanks for sharing your advice to
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.